Hello? Yeah. Thanks. Thank you for the very generous introduction. It was really wonderful that I had Madhav speaking before me, because he's already laid the ground for me to continue without really having to give much of a introduction to why I've called my talk A Bull in a China Shop. Here I want to call art the bull, because in a country which has got art really coming out of the woodwork, this is the most difficult arena to convince people that in some ways it is the soul of our country. It's very intangible. I was attacked by a historian when I said the art is the soul. He said, what about history? What about sociology? What about the built heritage? So I know all of you here are involved in creative disciplines, but I would say that art is one of the most difficult ones to penetrate, because there are too many gatekeepers. Madhav has just talked of this wonderful Bandra project, but within the art community, it is so difficult to penetrate through many, many layers of very, very strong gatekeepers. It can be political, it can be social, it's also in the not-for-profit area, but literally art is treated like this orphan child. You know, like when I did my art history, only losers went to study art history, and I'm talking of 35 years ago. When I started teaching art history at Punjab University, only losers came to study it. But in the last 15 years perhaps, from 2003, when art became a commodity, when art started having a price, when there was a resurgence of art, and for the first time in India, artists became rich, that art was actually acknowledged as a profession to take on. Otherwise, only losers went to study art if you got admission nowhere else, or women from genteel homes went to do watercolors and create beautiful paintings and make good wives for rich men. So now I'm going to talk of art, I don't want to say it so essentially, but I want to talk of this bull in a China shop, and I just want to show you a few of my projects and then we can discuss. So I have 20 minutes, right? Okay. So I'm going to begin with some work I did maybe 6 or 7 years ago, 10 years ago, in a wonderful museum in Vienna. It's called the SL Museum. It was opened by a person who was making, just movable built structures, and he was selling that. But unfortunately, the museum shut down 2 years ago because of this big recession which started, and all the collection is now going to go into this very more classical museum in Austria. It's going to go into the Belvedere. Now, this project just happened by chance because of, again, thank God, bureaucracy. Madhav has spoken very nicely about the fact that one should never fight with the government, and at this very late stage in my life, I've realized, really, he's so true, there's no point, fighting with them. You have to work with them, understand them, and try and get your way through. But here, it was good for me because the person in charge, Professor Karlheim, SL never worked with private people. But he had come to see a show of mine called the Saptarishis in 2007, liked what I did, and when this government person threw a lot of temper tantrums, being from Hitler's own country, he decided to be very autocratic and involved me in a project which was actually, he invited 10 directors from different museums to create a decade-long show and gave a sum of money. Now, the kind of money which he gave me, I didn't know that it was just about one artist that one could show, because that he was talking in European terms, and it was a very large sum of money by Indian standards. it was 300,000 euros. So I actually gave him lots of ideas of emerging artists. So ultimately what happened, not only was I invited to the 10th anniversary show, but what I had suggested to him with that kind of money that he had put at my disposal to show an artwork, he actually bought the whole collection, and I called the show India Awakens Under the Banyan Tree. So I'm just going to show you the museum. That's how it was. It was built about 20 kilometers outside the main city center. He had buses which used to travel all through the day, and they would come to this museum. This is Karl Heinz Essel. This is the museum. This is the kind of work he had. It was very close to a monastery. This is the buses that he had. It would start near the Albertina. He gave any artist a lot of scope to paint on the walls, create new stuff, and this was an installation which I did at the museum, which looked absolutely fabulous. This was okay, so I just, this is the one with which I, this one.
No.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'm pretty slow with technology. Okay, so what I did for India Awakens Under the Banyan Tree, and you know, this is 10 years ago, the art which I wanted to show was more of the younger lot. I didn't want to show any of the progressives. I didn't want to show the artists who were making waves at that point abroad, because there was Frank Cohen buying Indian art, there was Saatchi buying Indian art. So you had the Jitish Kalats, you had the Subodh Guptas, you had the Jagannath Pandas. I didn't show any of that. I showed a different emerging voice, and as Madhav also said, in a certain way, I think a lot of change and a lot of creativity is happening in the margins, not so much in the big cities. I'm talking more of a city which I know well, I think, Delhi. It's a nightmare even to get the right kind of people to come and see what you're doing. Like for example, there's a wonderful show at the Visual Arts Gallery called Child's Play, done by a woman artist. I don't know if she'd like to be called a woman artist, but I want to call her a woman artist because she's a woman, Indira Purukayastha. She's worked with wood, and I'm really, after a long time, I've seen some very exciting work, and she's from Chhattisgarh. And the kind of language she has evolved, because she's an educator, it's very, very indigenous, but so global and so cosmopolitan that it could happen anywhere in the world. So what I did was, I took most of the artists in this show were under 35, maybe one or two were in their 40s, but not more than that. I had photography, I had installation, painting, also indigenous art. So I'm just going to show you, this was Aisha Kapoor, a photographer, and most of them had had an education abroad and had come back. So it was a very interesting show that I did. He was probably one of the oldest artists in my show. He was from Chandigarh. I knew him well for a number of years. He'd gone to Slade, and the kind of work he was doing, this was about circus people. And this was the language that he works with, the visual language. But this was particularly about the circus, and I wanted this kind of language to be seen in Austria. Now, after that, I did another very interesting show at the Pinakothèque de Paris, a very, very fashionable, upmarket, private museum again. And the show which I did, this is the kind of work the Pinakothèque does. The owner, Mark Restellini, was a Modigliani expert. Even today, he is the expert on Modigliani. It just happened that a person a lot of his works I had in my book called Erotisme Indien, Indian Erotica. He liked what I was doing and wanted me to do work on the erotic in India, and I wanted to do the Kama Sutra. So we were lucky This is also, I'm just showing you the kind of work which Pinakothek was doing earlier. And then I want to come to the Kama Sutra. And what Mark Bracellini did when we opened the show in 2014, it was at every metro. This was his style. Buses had the Kama Sutra written there. There were 160 write-ups. Not one was critical in a negative way. In the City of Love, Kama Sutra was absorbed so beautifully. There were, serpentine lines literally waiting for people to see it, and the kind of intergenerational people who saw this was incredible. So I had Lakshmi Vishwanathan, who performed on the opening day some Shringar Padams, and this is the backdrop against which she did. It was very, very interesting. Every show that I have done internationally or what I have initiated in the country has been literally a lifelong learning experience. I could have had fabulous works from here, and this is something, there's a conversation or a seminar happening about the Antiquities Act. I couldn't take a single work out of India, because if any painting was on anything to do with the Kama Sutra, it was deemed as pornography. So I couldn't take any of the works out. I could only take some works from the Udaipur Museum, where I have set up a gallery called Divine Gesture for the City Palace, and I knew the Surasundaris. So right from getting them dated through the National Museum and taking them there, every work I sourced from people overseas, from the Rijksberg, from the Musée des Beaux-Arts in Brussels, from private collectors living abroad, all the work that you will see. Only Indian place was the Udaipur, because it happened to be a privately owned museum. I did ask Smriti Irani once the thing was done in 2016 when I came back, and we were at a very small lunch together. And she had actually anchored a program on the Kama Sutra, and I reminded her about it, and I asked her, can I bring the show back to India? So she thought for a moment. She said, don't say I said it, but it's never going to happen in India. But I want to show you how it happened abroad with collectors and collections. And the scenography team, we had audios. I'm sorry, I have forgotten to get the catalog. A huge thick catalog in French, all sold out. And an album in English, all sold out. And there were 5,000 copies printed. With audio guides on each work. I had also, because chapter 6, book 6 of the Kama Sutra is on the courtesans, I also had little clips from films, from Utsav to Pakiza, how people loved it, how they saw it, and I'm just showing you the display inside, the colors, the Indian colors which were used. One second, let me go back and just show you how it was done. Unfortunately, because I know there was little time, I have not shown you the number of, and I want to really kick myself, I haven't brought the catalogue. 226 miniature paintings I showed, beautifully hung. There were Michel Sabetier's big collection, which is now in La Rochelle, all the wooden architecture, showing very, very explicit Kama Sutra positions. Beautiful sculptures from the Rietberg of the Alingan of Shiva and Parvati. All this was shown at the Pinakothek. Now I'm just going to tell you a little bit of my work at the Visual Arts Gallery, which I started, why I have been able to do this, because we are a not-for-profit center. We run at a loss every year. But that the institution doesn't mind, because we are getting the not-for-profit title and income tax exemption because of the work I do there. And the Visual Arts Gallery has no funding, absolutely none. There is no money. Even the rentals that we get are really minuscule, but I bring out a publication every year we've initiated this absolutely wonderful festival of photography and sustainability called Photosphere, and you will see it. And for me, it is more about it being a platform, a place where you see very good work. It's not given to people just because they give us money. I'm trying to keep a standard there, particularly in the visual arts. I started with the visual arts. There was an open palm court outside, which I have also turned it into a gallery called the Open Palm Court Gallery. I cannot touch any of the walls because it's the swan song of Joseph Allen Stein and it's a heritage thing, so not even a nail can be dug in there. But I just created certain spaces, and then there was a place called some little room which this lady from the Modi family had got it, and she was just, her lease ran out, so the then director liked what I was doing and gave me the room, and I called it the Experimental Art Gallery, where we really have more, it works more as a laboratory of ideas. So I'm just going to show you some works. This is by Neza Gershwin in the visual arts in 2011 called Knotted Threads. She came to India, Swiss artist, worked with women doing waste and cloth and garbage collectors in Varanasi, and created a beautiful thing called Knotted Threads. This is with the Australia-India Council. I collaborated with them and co-curated with the RMIT a thing called Udarta, kindness, because I'm working only with Indian aesthetics now. So we did this show. Then we had Arzan Khambata's work, which was hired. The gallery was hired, but it was a solo show of sculptures. I like to show work from different parts of the country, particularly from smaller towns, whether it's Indore, whether it's Mysore, whether it's in Himachal. I try to show the language of what is happening in different cities. Now, this was a wonderful show, very interesting, done with the Israeli gallery, David Gerstein and Charles Fazino. I tried to show the local and the global. So the visual arts becomes a space where you are seeing works done, like, I'm sorry I didn't have child's play here, because by the time they set up, my presentation was done. So I have people from the smallest of towns to artists from New York. So what you see here is this international global voice, which is very, very interesting. Now, this is, yes, and I do love the crafts and indigenous art. So with the Delhi Crafts Council, there was a wonderful showing on Sanji Revisited, and if you see the way the gallery is transformed, every time an exhibitor takes the gallery, they transform it. I don't really like working with private galleries, because for them it's all about per square foot of space and how much they can sell. And they are the worst gatekeepers of art in this country, but we need them. Artists need to live, so galleries and artists have a huge nexus. This is, I also set up a museum in the backwaters of Kanha, because this lady bought over the Singhi Nava Jungle Lodge, and I convinced her to do a museum of indigenous art, because she sells indigenous art, and this is a show I had curated for the Must Art Gallery on indigenous art. Now, another very interesting show which we did last year was Ritu Kumar's. So hers was on textiles, and she really, can you imagine, this is a visual arts gallery, she really recreated it and created a new space in the visual arts. Now I'm going to show you the Open Palm Court Gallery. When I did the first show, there were pigeon droppings on the artwork, but we've managed to have a false ceiling there and lights, and this is now what the gallery looks like. This is the boarding which I've done with boards there, and we do a lot of work. What I don't believe in calling anybody a designer, architect or that, because I go back to ancient India, where the Vishwakarma is an artist, he's a designer, he's an architect. That's what it is, and that's what Indian art is all about. What people are talking of interdisciplinary today, and I don't want to sound like the Hindutva and everything is going back into the Vedas and the Mahabharats, and the first plastic surgery was Ganesh. No, 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 no. I'm looking at it from a theoretical discourse where there was pure abstraction in sound. When you talk of, when Madhav is talking of the haptic and sense, we are talking of the indris, the panch indriya, and I'll show you how I did my first photosphere on the pancha tattvas. So this is the gallery where I show more of hand-based work, where people are talking. This is Mela Pulkari 2019. I've been supporting this for the longest time ever. And what is very interesting is I just saw the Dior show at the Victoria and Albert Museum, and we're not that bad. Even though we don't have that kind of money, this installation is reminding me a little what happened there. Now again, this was a very interesting show which we did called Transcending Jerusalem. I sent 4 photographers to Jerusalem, and they then took photos of what their view was, and it transcends the city of Jerusalem and goes beyond, because you know that is a city which has 3 religions meeting right there. So this was, they went there, and then I collaborated with the embassy, and this show was put up. I also like to give artists the first opportunity. So this is Rahul Inamdar, who's now going to become really big. So he did his first major solo here independently, and he calls it Less. I'm just showing you the kind of work I'm doing. Now this is the Experimental Art Gallery. This was wonderful. Pascal Montai. He's now working with textiles. This is his collages which he had done. He showed his work. He just talked about, these are workshops where people come, they share their work, artists can come and talk to them, they can have dialogues. I also believe that in my country there is a great lacuna of artists not writing. It's always that, look at our work speaks, but it's not always that. When I ask and we do call for papers, it's so difficult to even get photographers to submit a portfolio. They'll submit their work, but they can't write about it. So I did a writing for photography workshop. When anybody comes to me for favors, I ask for a quick favor for the art community. And this is when Grant is from the University of Kent, and they wanted to hire the gallery for showing their work and also to talk about their university. I said, what are you going to do? I want a workshop. And Grant Ook did a 3-day workshop on writing on photography, and this is the kind of thing which happens in the Experimental Art Gallery, like Amita Sinha, the cultural landscapes of the Ghats of Varanasi. So you will see, it's a process-based what I do at Experimental Art Gallery. But the sad thing is, all these things, to get the people to share the work, Delhi is actually a moving feast. So people don't have time. But what is good is we are able to make a difference. Whether we make it splashing it or not, that is not the thing. We have touched the lives of many people. So that's the most rewarding thing for me. For example, we did this now, of course Aditya is setting up a huge museum, but for the last 5 years I have supported him in a very big way. We've done, because I also curate 2 metro stations, and I gave him the metro stations to show his work. And this is the cyanotype workshop he was conducting and printmaking at the at the Experimental Art Gallery. Now, I also believe a lot in art and education, and particularly children have to be, brought in an interesting way. Whenever we are traveling abroad, and as Madhav was saying, that, very rich people today, they are very aware. They'll do it there. But believe you me, I don't want to take names. Nobody contributes, not even to underwrite a workshop. So Buckaroo, they're doing wonderful work with children, and this is something which we did again at the Experimental Art Gallery, telling them how children can be brought into architecture. Now I also take care of the amphitheatre. Dadi is here. I've been supporting him for 19 years, every year. How much he wants to tell how much I have supported him, that's up to him. But we have supported him in a massive way. This is, of course, Samanvay, the literature festival, which we do at the amphitheatre. It's languages and art in public spaces. This is Kindred Nations, the first time when Richard Verma came and he wanted to show the relationship between India and America. I did this here. This is a beautiful work which we did, a portrait of partition, which was done here in 2014. Gopal Namjoshi have opened the entire outdoor spaces. So we have outdoor sculptures through the winter, you will see, and this is being done at the atrium. This is Satish Gupta's work outdoor. Now this was a very interesting thing. The EU came to me and I said, sure, I'll curate something for you, but it must be done in the IHC open spaces. So Conte Sena, you see him very active in the Facebook, he's part of this, and we had, you know, lots of people. We have 7,000 people, footfalls every day. So if you do something in the open, if it's good, they come, and in the winter months, they come and they read during their time. Now this is the art which is being displayed in the lifts. So what happened was that when new lifts were going to be put up, the then director, he was a bureaucrat, and I have to give full credit to him. He said, "Mujhe art ke bare mein kuch nahi pata. Give me a budget. We will have art in the things, and we remove this art. And you please get rid of it." I said, "No, you can't get rid of the old art. It's part of the heritage, and I'll show you what I've done with that. But this is art which is in every lift. In the lobbies also, I have put in art, so that as people are going up the lift, they will see art in the lifts." And now let me take you to Photosphere. This is what we started in 2016. The last was called Panchatattva. I'll just bring the book from the car, it's there. And this time the thing was coming to earth, so I called the festival Bhu, Prithvi, earth, and we investigated in a very nuanced way. Now these are the two metro stations that I curate. This is the New Mandi House, and this is the Jorbagh metro station, and that's the this is the last show. So just to tell you that art is literally a bull in a china shop, where the world is taking art as soft power, where the UK has, in London, the South Bank has been completely redeveloped. You go to any place in India, art is either for the market or for people to buy. Paresh Mehti chahiye, Panda chahiye, ye chahiye for people. You know, there is also a nexus between interior decorators. I saw a lovely film at the ICA last year in London which said a price for everything. So it's really wonderful, and I do think it's very important. But to really struggle to take art to the public, it's a real struggle because nobody is really interested. But having said that, I'm really touched by the lovely comments which I get from people when they see art in the metros. People actually take time, and it is really, you know, we as Indians, and I will not include myself because that's why I pushed for art, the aesthetics of travel. I made that presentation to Mangu Singh, who was then the head of, the chairman of the Delhi Metro, and after that, all art, if you see, the metro stations have it. I had a huge presentation and told him what it is to have the aesthetics of travel, gave him the example of the Charing Cross metro station, showed him examples in Paris in the metro, wherever. Therefore, at least one good thing has emerged, that you have art in every metro station. I only power 2 of them, and even to do that, it's the process is, well, behind the scenes is a different story, but all I can say is 35,000 people walk through the New Mandi House, 25,000 in the Jorbagh metro station. So even if you touch the lives of 2 people a day, that's enough. So it's been very, very rewarding, but we really need to go a long way because art has not, and I'm not saying it because I'm in the service of art and I've been doing this for 35 years. I just feel that people who can make a difference, the very rich people, they have not understood that you have to power it. This is something where this is where true philanthropy is. You buy the wall, work for your walls, no problem. But by supporting publications, for example, and I'm going to just show you some publications. That is why we lose money every year, from making an art planner to a journal to publications. We don't get support at all. But I'm not here to complain. I'm just saying, I just want to share, and you never know. Every project has a life of its own. Somewhere it'll make a difference. I just wanted to share the work, to just tell you that art really is the bull in the china shop, but it's a powerful bull. Thank you very much.
Art has always been influencing culture, in large perspectives, and thereby over time, shaping of culture happens through art. While this is a known fact, why is that, say somebody in your position has not been able to influence enough to make it mainstream in that perspective? I'm just asking this question. You talk about a lot of pains and troubles through the journeys which you have taken. I'm asking more on a strategic basis, so that why are we not being able to strategize a fact which basically large part of public will not understand the importance of it, but thereby curators like you and people in decision making, it becomes their task in that sense.
So first let me thank you for the question, important question. First let me say I hope I didn't seem to be a whiner. I didn't want to whine at all. I wanted to just share. To saying influential curator, yes. I've been very, very influential in shaping up artists. They have come to me when they needed this thing. The minute they get noticed, the galleries take them away, and the way the gallerists and artists then form a nexus and throw the curator out, because it's all about money ultimately. So now, of course, I've understood that. Now, influence you are talking of. I would say one thing. If you keep working with integrity, if you keep doing what you know is right, yes, you do get an influence like I've got through the metros. I have done important collections abroad. When people really need something important, they come to me. So I think one can exercise, but it's such a wide canvas, it's such a big world that nobody, it's all about moments. And I really believe that everything has a time and place, and I don't want to sound, like a spiritual guru, kaam karte jao aur kuएं mein dalo, but really it is that. And somewhere along the line, the footprints will be seen. You have to be just at it, just carry on what you are doing. And I'm doing exactly that. In fact, the only thing is I've become more forthright. So that poor Mickey Desai who came, and he's going to be doing his big exhibition there in Delhi and was asking my advice, I gave him the advice so honestly that he looked at me and said, "You're very forthright." I said, "I don't want to waste your time and my time. So you better make sure if you want to have people, this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do." So then he digested it all and just thanked me with one single WhatsApp, "Thank you for being so honest." But that's the only way. You have to keep doing what you are doing with integrity and honesty. And when the time is right, the work will be recognized. That's what I do. Does that answer what you wanted to ask me?
Partly, I'll ask a counter question.
Okay. Yes, Madhav.
Well, it's more really I'd like to extend a comment, because firstly, I think I'll disagree with you with if she's doing enough, because that's the thing. I think what.
Undoubtedly.
No, it's okay.
No, but my point is that I don't know if you remember.
I remember you very well.
Oh, you, okay, good.
Very well. And I'm
Was it-
so proud of what you've done.
Thank you. So, 12 years back,
Yes.
Charles Correa had decided to do this very public exhibition.
Yeah.
And these imaginations of Delhi. It was called Imagining Delhi. He was the head of the DUAC and he'd rounded up folks like us to kind of help him produce it. And I wanted to tell you about some things I realized then. So, even though you're not knocking nails into Stein's building, you are, I think, achieving what Stein set out to do with Habitat. And I want to congratulate you on that because after having done that exhibition in the open spaces, in fact, I participated in two. There was another one that Raj Libahan had done as part of his festival that I had also worked on. That's where I realized this importance of public space being the place so you consume art in transit and the value of that. And I can see that that's clearly consistently your
Vision.
Yeah, and your terrain of operation where you're saying that it shouldn't be in boxed up, it shouldn't be inaccessible. And the second comment was, I use the metro quite regularly. And I can also see the impact that the art has in public spaces like the metro or in the street art that's happening
Yeah.
around Lodi.
Yeah.
And perhaps it's one way to think about it. If you are facing trouble getting financial support for this, I can guarantee you if you can convince the metro to literally have a chanda box in the corner, I am sure people will contribute small amounts, but the scale at which it will happen would be something that would be worthwhile. So if they have kiosks that sell things to eat and read and stuff, I think the commercial space that you can offer someone to say that, okay, if you like the art in this metro, contribute a little bit, you know. I think that might be a way to circumvent these kind of barriers that you face to operate in this. But really speaking, I wanted to tell you that time when I worked in the gallery, the open gallery, that's what actually made me think about what it means to be on the streets in a city like Delhi. Because until then, you know, everyone recedes back into their cars. So
Thank you,
you.
Madhav.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because that is one thing I take pride in, and that is what I've done. I've put the wind under the wings of many artists, many designers, and they all come back consistently. I found it very, very rewarding, though it's been very disappointing sometimes to know how artists use you and throw you and kick you aside, but overall it's been very rewarding. And I've been unable to show you that the art which was done by the labor, which was put in the lifts, I have put it outside all over the habitat with the write-ups. I've got it restored with the write-ups, with maps of the city, so that people can have constant engagement and also know about it. Because many people are not literate about the indigenous art forms in this country, and it's great joy. That's why I'm writing a lot of books on art for children. And it's, you know, and the thing is that their parents are coming back and saying, oh, we didn't know this about Amrita Shergill. I've done two till now, Raja Ravi Verma and that. So that's very, very rewarding. And I do like your idea about the Chanda box. But you know how it is, it's all about relationships. So I built up a very good relationship with Ankur Singh and the Chief Operating Officer of the Delhi Metro, Sharat Sharma, because he happened to be a photographer and understood the importance of it. But they both retired. Now I have to build a new relationship because it's all about convincing the person there. But I like your idea and I will start work on that.
I'll also try and talk to you later about
Yeah.
people at the DMRC. That
Sure.
might help.
Wonderful.
Forward. But more Red Bull to your bull. in the
No, no,
title.
no. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
So, thereby the largest patrons of art and culture is the government of
Yeah.
India and the state governments, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where we find the difficulty in crossing over. And Madhav spoke about how
Yeah.
we need to understand them better to be able to permeate into them. So that's the larger
The key.
perspective of how many people like you should be doing that to be able to, I mean, eventually.
Yeah, but
shape
by
things.
the time I've realized that you have to work with the government, it's very late for me.
All
It
of us
took a
realize
long
very-
time because, you know, paisa sarkar ke paas hi hai if you really want to make a difference. Otherwise, you're a trader. They're all petty traders. They are traders. They have not made a difference. May have made money with the artists, but they have not made a difference. डिफरेंस तो सरकार ही बनाती है, इंस्टीट्यूशंस बनाती है, एवरीवेयर देयर इज एन एक्सेस, वेदर इट्स द एयरपोर्ट्स, see some of the very bad art which is being put up there. I'd be ashamed of it. But that's what it is. There's no point passing judgments. That's how it is. But पैसा सरकार के पास है, उन्हीं के साथ आप डिफरेंस बना सकते हैं.